The final exercise in session 4 of macroeconomics is problem number 16, austerity and monetary policy. Austerity means reduction of public expenditures by the government. So the question says many governments are forced to cut the budget deficit. This is again to say budget deficit, as we have seen earlier, it is calculated as government expenditure minus taxes. And if government expenditure minus tax is a positive number, that is to say government expenditure is higher than tax, and many governments are forced to reduce this higher number or the budget deficit, and they are forced to reduce this number or reduce the budget deficit by carrying out austerity policies or reduction of public expenditures. This is, in other words, to say they are forced to conduct contractionary fiscal policy. Here, the effects of austerity depends on the reaction of monetary policy. So the first sub-question in this problem is austerity without independent monetary policy. So first, we are asked to graphically analyze the effect of contractionary fiscal policy reduction in government expenditure in the ISLA model. And in this first sub-question, we are actually assuming that there is no independent monetary policy. The reduction in government expenditure should be reflected on the IS curve. So our first IS would be IS0, where on this case, an equilibrium point A, we would have an income of YA with a corresponding interest rate of IA. And here we are saying that there is a contractionary fiscal policy which shifts our IS curve leftwards to a new IS curve, IS1, and this is actually made possible with the reduction of government expenditure G. So at the new point of intersection B, we would have a new income level B, which should be indicated by YB, and we would have a new interest rate which is indicated by IB. So this curve, similar to 15.1, represents the reduction of government expenditure or contractionary fiscal policy. However, an independent monetary policy can counter the negative effects of this income of contractionary fiscal policy. As you have seen in this curve, our income decreased from YA to YB. So the central bank should actually take a counter attack or counter effect measure to account for this contractionary fiscal policy. So 16.1, when your problem set says which measure has the central bank to use to reach the level of income before the contractionary fiscal policy took place, draw this policy in the figure which we have just seen in 16.1. So we would still keep the figure in 16.1, and the central bank in this regard has a monetary supply as an instrument to counter this contractionary fiscal policy. Income dropped because of this contractionary fiscal policy. So if income dropped, only an expansionary monetary policy should be used to increase the income. So increasing money supply in this regard would be the action of the central bank to control for this reduction of income from YA to YB. So in this regard, the central bank would take an expansionary monetary policy, that is, in other words, to say the central bank would increase its money supply. So having this diagram, we would draw our LM curve in a way to reflect the increase in money supply. So our new LM1 would have a rightward shift, and the rightward shift is due to the increase in money supply. Here you can see there is a new equilibrium point C, and here we have reached the income level of YA, and YA is equal to the new income level of YC. In this diagram, as you can see, first there is a contractionary fiscal policy action undertaken by the government. The government took a reduction in government expenditure, so IS shifted from IS to IS1. When IS shifted from IS to IS1, our income level decreased from YA to YB, and interest rate decreased from IA to IB. However, the central bank wanted to control for this reduction in income, so it had to jump in. It had to make expansionary monetary policy in order to reach on to the new income level, or in order to maintain the income that was previously indicated as an equilibrium. So MS increased, or the money supply increased, as part of the expansionary monetary policy by the central bank. So if MS increased, our LM shifted to the right from LM0 to LM1, giving us a new equilibrium of point C with an income level of YC, which is equal to the initial income level of YA. However, in this case, we can also see that we have a new interest rate, which is IC, and it is lower than the two previous interest rates. Final part of problem number 16 is briefly compare the effect of austerity on income and income structure between 16.1. 16.1, as you remember, is the contractionary fiscal policy, and 16.2, as you remember, is the expansionary monetary policy. So here, without a change in monetary policy, at 16.1, income decreased and a recession occurred. However, when the central bank fight the recession by increasing money supply, the income can be stabilized on the previous point. In comparison to the situation before austerity policy took place, the income structure changed from our equilibrium A to C. Government spending decreased, investment increased, and consumption remained constant. So this is again to compare the two scenarios where first a contractionary fiscal policy had resulted in reduction of income, and then the central bank wanted to react to this reduction of income by undertaking an expansionary monetary policy where our LM curve shifted outwards. So we had reached at a new income structure from point A to a new income structure on point C. And on this regard, government spending decreases. Although the government spending decreases, investment had increased and consumption didn't change. So this is again the analysis of the comparison between the austerity measures and the expansionary monetary policy by the central bank. So this is the end of session number 4. Thank you for your attention. If you have questions, as usual, please feel free to let us know by sending us an email.